Welcome all for this today's session. In this day, we are going to see about the perspective process model in software engineering. So, before moving on to what is meant by perspective process model, we will need to see about what are the types of process model. There are basically two types of process model, of which first one is perspective process model and the second one is specialized process model. So, what's the need for going on a perspective process model means? The perspective process model involves linear sequential of analysis. So everything will be analyzed in a sequential manner, that is in a linear manner. So that plays an important role in software development life cycle. Okay. So in this perspective process model, we are having three different types of models. The first one is waterfall model, second one is incremental model, and the third one is rapid application development model, which we will be short formed as RAD model. So in the previous session of our YouTube link, we have detailedly seen about waterfall model and its various aspects. So it is also called as classical analysis model. So refer that section for the brief introduction about waterfall model. So now we are moving on to the topic called incremental development model. So the name itself says that it involves incremental development of software development process. So when there is a need for going on to incremental development model means we have to analyze the basic setup of incremental development model. So first point we will focus on when there is a need for moving on to incremental developmental model. So the first point says that it is used when the requirements are well understood. So consider an example that we are collecting information from the user. The user can be well knowledge or basic knowledge users also available. So when we are moving on to analyzing and gathering information from the users, we will be asking so many number of questions for gathering our own information for building a good project or developing a particular successful software development model. Okay, so in that particular session we are gathering so much of information that are filed into the part called software requirement specification. We can also say it as software requirement documentation part. So whenever we have a doubt in clarification of certain requirements, we will be gathering information or relating to information that are present in the software requirement specification documentation part. So this part plays a very important role in collecting information from the user. So the first point itself says the basic background of incremental developmental model. So what it says is the incremental developmental model focuses on gathering information, and the gathered information will be very well understood by any person who are visiting or referring that particular section. So second point is the incremental model is used for the multiple incremental or independent deliverable modules. It means that suppose the customer is preferring to see the development of or the developmental stages of our project in a linear sequential fashion. For example, the customer visits every week or once in a month for the clarification of their own requirements, whether it meets the customer needs or not. So for that we will be delivering so many number of independent deliverable modules to the customer. So this plays an important role in incremental model. So the third one is it involves linear fashion of workflow. So the incremental model focuses on developing of software which is mainly focused on team members. So each and every team will be working on towards the successful development of model in a linear fashion. So next one is it is iterative in nature and it focused on operational products. That is, its feasibility is highly achievable. Okay, so these are all the main concepts involved in incremental developmental model. Okay, so next we will be moving on to the topic called what are all the key steps involved in this incremental developmental model. So the first point says it involves communication followed by planning. Next one is modeling. Fourth one is construction, and the fifth one is deployment or deliverable product. Okay, the first point says communication. The communication part involves gathering of information, storing of information, and retrieving that information through requirement specification documentation for the future use of the customer. Okay, the second part involves planning. The planning part involves how we are going to focus on the achievement oriented or goal oriented successful completion of our software product. Okay, so the third part involves modeling. So modeling involves design and architectural oriented aspects. The design parts involves various types of architectural styles followed by architectural design patterns. So in this section we are mainly focused on different types of modeling relative to this type of incremental model. So in this we are focusing on three different types of modeling. In this first modeling means business model, the second one is data model and the process model. So what is mean by business model? So business modeling mainly involves enterprise application, that is its deliverable is directly linked to the enterprise oriented departments. So the second one involves data. It involves metadata, data collection and gathering of useful and functional oriented requirements for our product deliverable. So the third process involves the collection of data that can be put together to form a particular process. The process should be a goal achievable process. Okay, these are all we are focusing on the particular model concept. The fourth part involves construction. The construction part is mainly focusing on how we are going to construct a well-defined coding or well-defined program by using the programmer team for the achievement of the goal for a particular successful product. Fifth part involves deliverable of a product by means of deployment. Basically, deployment involves the stage which is the prior step to the deliverable goods to the customers. Okay, these are all the key steps involved in incremental developmental model. So next we will be seeing the diagrammatic representation which cleanly shows what are all the aspects involved in incremental developmental model. So in this model we are focusing on two iterations, that is two incrementations. So in the first part we will see that construction followed by planning followed by modeling and construction followed by deployment. So the second iteration follows the same steps called as communication, planning, modeling, construction and deployment. The key aspects of this incremental model is you have to focus on this part. So in this part we will be having the identification that when the first team is projecting towards the deployment of the project, during the phase of planning, the second team will be planning for communication link. So in the communication followed by planning, modeling, construction and deployment. Likewise, the iteration or incremental process will be going on for a process to the achievement of the goal. So these are all the incremental model and these are all the diagrammatic representations. So finally we will see what are all the main aspects involved in incremental developmental model. So the basic thing behind the incremental developmental model is we will be choosing this kind of model for rapid application developmental stage. So when the customer needs the product to be viewed frequently before it is delivered to the customer, then we will be choosing this kind of model. Okay, so these are all the main aspects involved in incremental model. So next we are going to see about rapid application developmental model. So that we will be seeing in our next session. Thank you all.